DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. This is a communication skills topic that I want to talk about here. Is that what you brag about? When you hear somebody bragging or you catch yourself bragging, what you're really doing is you're displaying your insecurities. I'm gonna tell you what even made me think of this. I was just looking at this video or I was listening to some audio, some guys having a conversation. This kind of content that I usually don't even pay attention to, but it popped up immediately when I logged on to, I was on YouTube, and this immediately popped up, and I saw a name that I recognized, so let me see what these guys are talking about. And these two guys are having this verbal altercation, let's just put it like that. Two black guys, I'll say that, I'm not gonna say who. Two black guys having this verbal altercation, and one of these guys is basically defending himself, and he's saying these things like, hey, I got this, I got that, he's talking about how many women he's had sex with, and he's done this and that. And I'm listening to these two guys talk. These are grown men. These are not children. These are two grown men having this conversation. I'm thinking to myself, the more they just keep talking about what this guy said, I did this, I did that, and they're arguing with each other. And I'm thinking to myself, this is something that I actually heard Reverend Run say this way back. This is probably like over 10 years ago. I heard Reverend Run from Run DMC from a TV show. He had a TV show called Run's House, and he said this. He said, when you hear people brag, what they're really doing is showing off what they're insecure about. And Robert Greene talks about this also when he talks about the laws of human nature. He has a book on that title, but he mentions it in all his other books. This is when he talks about observing human beings, that by the time we reach maturity, by the time we get to age 18 and up, us humans, we realize subconsciously or consciously what our weaknesses are, what we're insecure about, what the things that we want to hide from the world that we don't want the rest of the world to see. So what we do is we develop, there's a certain phrase I'm looking for, and it's escaping me right now, but we basically develop ways to cover those things up. And in developing ways to cover those things up, what we usually do, because it's almost impossible for us to control this, is that we go overboard. We basically overcorrect for our insecurities. And this is what, and as a man, I recognize this in the kind of environments that I come from and seeing men do this. We often basically overcompensate for our insecurities by basically going in the opposite direction and bragging about those very things. So when you hear men, especially with men, and especially coming from the black community, coming from the inner city, or some of you might call it the hood or whatever, three specific things you usually hear men brag about. Number one, they brag about their material possessions, whether that's how much money you got, what kind of vehicles or clothing you wear, vehicles you drive, how much money you got, usually something around there. Something about material possessions. Number two, your bravado, which is like being tough and being willing to fight, or now when you listen to rap music, rappers will say they'll kill you. They won't even fight you, they'll kill you. So some type of toughness, something that they can physically do to hurt you. And number three, men brag about their penises. They talk about how many women they had, what they do with their dicks, and all of that stuff. Basically those three things. Material possessions, being tough, and how many girls you've had sex with. It's usually the three things you hear men bragging about all the time. You want to know if this is a normal thing, and you want to see why this is so popular, listen to your favorite rappers. And listen, I'm not knocking this stuff. I listen to this stuff. Actually, I'm not knocking it, but I'm not saying it's such a terrible thing. I'm not waving my finger at it like I don't listen to the shit. I listen to the shit as well. And listen, I have been guilty of it at times as well. But I hear a lot of men who I think, when I listen to them talk and I know who some of these guys are, I'm like, these dudes are too old to be talking like this. Especially in a public forum when they know a whole bunch of people are paying attention to them. But at the same time, I understand why they do it, because there's a whole community, there's a whole population of people who buy into this stuff and they find this stuff entertaining. This is the stuff that they respect. These are the people that they look up to. And listen, I'm not knocking it. I'm just pointing out what it is. Anytime you hear me pointing out stuff, even if I'm saying it in a critical way, I'm not saying it as if they need to stop doing it. I'm not saying as if I'm trying to shut it down or make it go away. I'm just pointing out to you all because I want y'all to recognize the game. Like, my whole thing is, y'all don't know me. My whole brand and business and philosophy is called work on your game. So when I say work on your game, I'm not telling you need to change. I'm not telling you need to stop doing anything. I'm not telling you need to start doing anything. I'm actually not even really giving you any suggestions. All I'm doing is laying the game out for you flat on paper so you can see what the game is. You can do what you want to do with it. If you want to take everything that I'm saying here and apply everything that I say, good, you can tell me the results that you get from it. If you want to take everything I say here and apply none of it because you disagree with me, fine. Let me know you disagree with me. As long as you do it in a respectful way, I will engage with you. If you want to take everything I say and just take it as entertainment, like haha, it's funny, and move on and forget everything I said 2 minutes from now, you can do that as well. I'm just laying the game out for y'all so y'all understand, because I also want you to understand not only what you can notice in other people, but also checking yourself. If you catch yourself bragging about things, and it doesn't have to be one of these things that I just said. It doesn't have to be your sexual escapades or your financial resources or how tough you are, because that's usually what men brag about. But women are guilty of this as well, not in those areas, but in other areas. When you are bragging, usually you're doing it to cover up an insecurity. So basically, because you feel this way about yourself in this area, you talk about yourself in this way to kind of overcompensate and balance it out. But here's the thing that you need to understand about bragging is that when you're doing that, you think you're covering it up by doing this, but understand that it's much easier for us, each one of us as people, to notice things in other people than it is for us to notice things in ourselves. So when you're bragging, you think you're balancing things out by doing it like this way, but the people, everyone else outside of you, especially observant people who are critical thinkers, maybe not everybody, most people are not critical thinkers to be honest, but observant people who are critical thinkers, they can see exactly what you're doing. They can see that you're covering up an insecurity by, even though you may think you're making yourself look like this, the critical thinkers hear what you're saying and they see what you're doing and they actually see what you're covering up. You can't hide it. And the more you brag, actually the more obvious you make it. So I just want to drop that on you. Those of you who are going to do something with this, to notice and catch yourself. When you catch yourself bragging, when you catch yourself trying to cover up your weaknesses, trying to catch yourself covering up your blind spots or those holes in you, wherever they may be and why ever they exist, by bragging, you're making it really, really obvious where your insecurities lie. And again, not everybody's going to notice this, but there are people who do. Most of them, to be honest with you, most of the time they're not going to say anything to you. They're not going to tell you that they notice it. But if you ever run into somebody who is observant enough to notice it and quality enough and you respect them enough that they can tell you, keep that person around you, because those are the kind of people who are insightful and they can see stuff that you probably don't even notice in yourself. So you take that and you do what you want with it. Now, all that said, get my daily motivation text. I send this text out every single day to everyone in my text community, completely for free. All you gotta do is text me at my number. My number is 305-384-6894. I'll put the number down below in the description of this video as well. So you wanna get that daily motivation, hit me at that number right there. And any of you who's in the business world, any of you professionals who wanna take your game to the next level, your personal growth, because you got to grow personally to grow a business, and your business growth, of course, then join my mastermind. It's called the Bulletproof Mastermind. You can join that by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link's down below as well. Work on your game. Dre, all